My name is Derek Price. I am the Director of Business Development for Expedia Group Media Solutions. And one of the things I like to talk about is not stage selling, but sort of data and how that informs some decisions. So I'm going to introduce our panel. They're going to also then have an opportunity to talk a little bit about what they're doing, and then we're going to have some questions and answers. So first, I'd like to reintroduce Coryn Briggs. She is the Director of Marketing, Digital Marketing at Traverse City Tourism. She's been in the business for 14 years. And she is really excited to be on the stage. I'm telling her that, whether she is or not. And she has been in Traverse City since 2004, enjoys running, hiking, exploring Sleeping Bear Dunes, so I'm not sure what that's about, and dining around her marketplace. And then also Leah Chandler from Discover Puerto Rico. Very excited to have her on stage as well. She is in charge and oversees the team that does all of the marketing, branding, PR for the island, and we're looking forward to hearing from her. And then Jalyssa from Visit Mesa, thanks for coming. Sort of a late ad, and a marketplace in a state where I lived for many years, so excited to hear what she's got to say with Visit Mesa. So I'm going to first have Coryn talk a little bit about Traverse City, and I'm going to grab the clicker.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me here. I am the Aretha Franklin, but you do not want to hear me sing any of the songs. Those are strictly for the car and maybe some fun times with my girls. So anyways, I'm from Traverse City, Michigan. Michiganders, I'm sure you've all seen it. If you haven't, this is the first time you're going to. So we point to where we are by where we live on our hand, because Michigan is shaped like a mitten. So in Traverse City, we are up in the northern part, up here between your pinky and your ring finger. There's a lot more to Michigan than just Detroit. I mean, not just Detroit. Detroit's amazing. It has had an awesome comeback, but Traverse City is just a little farther north. And we were invited to share some videos as to help our introduction. So I have a couple really great short form videos to help cue up where I'm from and what I'm talking about. So go ahead, Derek, with this first one. This shows you where we are. Awesome. Secondly, to give you an idea of what Traverse City is known for, we are the cherry capital of the world. Yes, cherries do grow in Michigan, and we produce a lot of them. So go ahead, Derek. Oh, I think you might have already shown that one.
Did I?
That's okay.
Me?
Yep.
Obsessed with you? Yes. Yes, I am.
Awesome. And then we are a four-season destination, so summer is definitely our busiest season. We do very little to promote summer because it sells itself, which means we have to work a lot harder to promote fall, winter, and spring. So we really do push winter a lot for outdoor recreation such as skiing, snowboarding, cross-country skiing. But we do promote ourselves and talk about us as a four-season destination. So go ahead, last one.
Did it play?
Oh, maybe not. Well, it's on our TikTok channel. Feel free to head over to Traverse City Tourism on TikTok, and you'll see that one there. It's a great little intro of what you'll see four-season-wise in Traverse City.
All right. And then is this you?
That is not Traverse City. Yeah. Right.
Nor Mesa.
Nor Mesa.
Well, Leah, why don't you tell us a little bit what's going on?
Absolutely. Thankful to be here. Great to be here with you too, Derek. My name's Leah Chandler. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Discover Puerto Rico. Discover Puerto Rico is a somewhat new entity. We're about ready to celebrate our 5th year anniversary of the founding of the DMO. Puerto Rico had, for many decades, had tourism under the government of Puerto Rico. And so, as many of you can imagine, especially if you work with state government in tourism, oftentimes when there's administration changes, then you're experiencing changes in tourism offices, and you're seeing turnover of the staff of tourism offices. There's new logos, sometimes new taglines, and it's hard to build consistency with brands, and certainly Puerto Rico has been a victim of that for many years. So in 2017, through bipartisan legislation, the DMO was formed, the first ever DMO for Puerto Rico, as a nonprofit 501c3 that would promote tourism outside of the island. So we are now the official destination marketing organization for the DMO. I was the second employee hired, and now we're up to 65 full-time staff, 85% of whom are Puerto Rican and are based in the island. And I'm very fortunate also to be based there in Puerto Rico. As you might be aware, Puerto Rico, as we started off, had some very neutral perceptions about the destination, and we were working from that to really grow the understanding of what Puerto Rico offers as a tourism destination. And so we've had an amazing journey over the last 5 years with a very passionate, dedicated, talented group of people who are now sharing Puerto Rico's stories with the world. And I think what we're going to share today is one of our spots from our new campaign that launched last May, Live Boricua. And the word Boricua is something that's really special and very meaningful to the island of Puerto Rico, and is used to describe someone who is of Puerto Rican descent or is from Puerto Rico, and really speaks to the embodiment of this spirit and the lifestyle of what it's like to live in Puerto Rico, something that's super ownable and very, very special to our organization. So I think we can share that now.
All right.
In Puerto Rico, we call ourselves Boricua. We are proud, passionate, and full of life. On our island, adventure finds you. Strangers aren't strangers for long. The size of the audience doesn't change the beauty of the music, and we celebrate every last ray of sun. Live Boricua.
And so this campaign really set out for us not just a way to launch something new in a campaign space for tourism, but really to change sort of the category itself, and really switching the focus from product to the people, which is something that we think is so special in Puerto Rico and really sets us apart from the competition. So it's less about a campaign and more of a movement, and something that's been very, very successful to us, and obviously carries a lot of meaning for our organization, but also for the island.
That's exciting. I'm excited to hear more about what you're doing in the different aspects. Jalyssa.
Yes, thank you. I'm Jalyssa Gasmen, Director of Visitor Marketing for Visit Mesa. And Visit Mesa is the second largest city in Arizona, and we're the third largest city in Arizona. We're the second largest metropolitan city in the greater Phoenix area. And we have branded ourselves City Limitless, all the experiences you can do in the Tonto National Forest, out in the Sonoran Desert, on our lower Salt River. So this is a great video to get a better understanding. Yeah, and we're very excited to just showcase how we tailor a lot of our campaigns to the individual travelers and the families and all the great things there are to do in Mesa.
We're glad to have you here. And as a ex-resident of Phoenix, it's really nice to see Mesa put their name on the map. So excited to have you all here. One of the things that we are going to be hearing at this conference, and we have heard for years, data is sort of key, and there's a lot of sources. So as you, over the last couple of years in these recent campaigns, and this is a question to all of you, with so many sources of data, the question is, what role does it play? And secondarily, are you using it in a different way to create strategies to create these amazing campaigns? And then are you using it to inform your stakeholders? So big three-part question. So who wants to go first?
I'll try to remember all the parts.
And I can remind you.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So for us, data is paramount to everything we do. When we started the DMO, we didn't inherit any primary data from the previous folks who had handled tourism on the island. So we were starting literally from ground zero when it came to building out our data set and understanding who the consumers were who were visiting Puerto Rico. And oh, by the way, what did they think of Puerto Rico? So we started with brand perception testing. That was first and foremost what helped us really determine how we were going to reposition the brands for Puerto Rico. Since then, we have built out a very, very extensive research program, I would say. We now have a director of research and analytics internally, and we also have a data analyst internally as well, who helps sort of corral all of this information. I wouldn't necessarily say that we're using data differently today than we did 5 years ago, but boy, are we using more of it. There are so many sources of data for us, from primary research, which is critical, and we've only been able to start doing visitor analysis or visitor intercept studies for the past year. So some destinations have been doing visitor intercept studies or visitor profile studies for many, many years. The previous destination I worked in had done it for a couple of decades. So you've got that really, really rich understanding of who your visitors are. For us, we just started doing that a year ago. So we're getting a better picture of who's visiting. That kind of primary research, again, the brand perception studies, brand health studies, is really critical to understanding how we want to move the destination forward. Then you've got lots of secondary research partners as well. For those of you who have big rental markets like we do in Puerto Rico, things like AirDNA are extremely helpful. We're using lots of things like airline data to help us understand how many flights are coming in, how full are those flights, where do we have markets that need more assistance in selling those flights. We're, of course, looking at Smith Travel Research. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And then we're also focused very, very heavily on that data tracking component, which I would say that's where we've seen the biggest changes in the recent years, as everyone in the room probably agrees. It's less about having more ways to track the data, and for us, how do we validate those ways? Because what we're seeing are some pretty big discrepancies in what's coming in with the data tracking information and then what we're actually seeing on the ground in terms of received revenues, right? So when we're talking about how do we present this information to the board, it's very, very critical that we're reconciling all of that data tracking, because for many of us who are using a lot of digital platforms to market our destinations, and because of the cookie situation, the way that that continues to evolve, you just don't have as many ways to track the data as previously. So we are trying to battle through that right now. Our stakeholders, to that question, do have a lot of access to our data. We are giving them bi-weekly research updates via industry email blasts. We also have we use Symphony with Tourism Economics. Our board members have full access to that information so that they're able to see in a real-time basis what our statistics look like and how we're performing, also how we're forecasting performance, which is really, really critical to them. And then on a monthly basis, we're doing dashboard reporting that's more backwards looking. So as we look at, I think we're about like a month behind. We get all of that data in, we process that, and then we send out a monthly dashboard for our industry. Data is something they didn't have a lot of before the DMO, and so they're super, super hungry for that information, and we've got plenty to feed them.
I think transparency is key, especially with stakeholders. Coryn, what about you?
Wow, I second what Leah has said. Definitely paramount to what we do, all of that. So I don't want to repeat it all because I think you guys all got it. Dashboards. Who doesn't have multiple dashboards that you're supposed to be looking at every day? You're supposed to be logging into every day to make these informed decisions, which we do, but sometimes we all get a little bit in the weeds with the content creation and the production and the leadership and everything else that kind of falls on our plate. But data is paramount, so we cannot forget it, and we do have to use it for all of those really important marketing reasons that Leah had just mentioned. In addition, I'd like to bring up how we've been using it differently. So we just did a whole rebrand for not so much our image, but more for our voice and who we represent and what we do in Traverse City. And like many DMOs, there is not always the most positive local sentiment for tourism in your community. And so we worked with an agency to help us figure out what the local sentiment was, to help us shape our new voice, and to help us rebrand and get that new messaging. So we used data heavily. We did a lot of surveys. We talked to a lot of local people, influential local people, down to business owners, down to, just regular local man on the street. And then what we did is we took that data and those insights and that information, and then we helped script our new voice. And that was really impactful, I think, and it really gave, when we launched the new brand, it really gave the community more of a sense of ownership and more of a sense of pride, because they knew that they were talked to and they got to help shape that new voice that we have to represent Traverse City, Michigan. In addition, like many, we do also help to use it to prove economic impact in the community in many ways, whether it's through festivals, through sporting events that we might bring in, and through a variety of different partnerships, which I think we're going to go over in a little bit.
Cool, thank you. What about you, Jalyssa?
Yes, I third everything they just said. Definitely knowing who our customers are, when they're coming, how long they're staying, what they're doing while they're in market. We definitely use that data to showcase all that, and then helping when we do different media buy campaigns and gearing all those towards those customers. One of our big buys was a passport, outdoor adventure passport that we just launched. And because of all the customer feedback that we got, we know people who come to Mesa love the outdoors. So giving them reasons and where to go and why to go really helps. And we also have a beer and brews passport. So using that data to kind of tailor it to our customers.
And I think that's important. We'll talk a little bit about that around sort of that consumer perception and sentiment about the marketplace, and how does that inform your marketing decisions. There's a lot going on with travel. A little bit of a plug, this is not selling, I swear. But we just came out with our most recent traveler research around motivations and decision-making processes. But we're also seeing within that demand for travel is still up, but we are seeing shifts. So thinking about Q1, recent behaviors that you've seen within travelers within your marketplaces, is there anything that's jumping out that's unique or surprises you about what they're doing? And have you been able to pivot, or have you incorporated that into what you're doing with your marketing?
So I can start and just share a couple of things that have been really surprising that we have actually acted on in the recent 3, I would say, to 9 months. So in the recent past, number one is in our visitor profile studies, what we have seen for those people who are coming to Puerto Rico is that they are choosing, in terms of motivation, culture, number 2 only to weather. So obviously we know lots of people like to come to Puerto Rico because of our beautiful year-round sunny skies and beautiful beaches, but culture is something that historically has not ranked high on our scale in terms of motivation. I think for lots of destinations, you would see dining, you see shopping, you see a lot of the attractions that rank really high in terms of why people are choosing your destination over another destination. And I think the way we've built that into our Live Boricua campaign, which we just shared a little bit of, is exactly how we're starting to activate on that data point. We, want to be very transparent and authentic with the destination marketing, and we know that this is something that Puerto Rico can own, which is that Boricua spirit. But secondarily, now we're seeing consumers want that more than ever. And so in terms of meeting them where they are and really understanding what's going to generate their interest in travel, how can we get them to choose Puerto Rico over the Dominican Republic or over Jamaica? And it's really about being able to educate them and share with them how they can have a different type of experience by tapping into the local culture and living like someone in Puerto Rico. Not coming to Puerto Rico and actually moving there and living, which is a whole other panel we can have at some other time. And I would say the second thing that's really interesting, and this is just happening in the last few months, is we are seeing an older demographic, I would say the 55 plus audience, that is becoming much more recession proof. So coming out of COVID, we were a little hesitant to work with that 55 or really target that 55 plus audience because they were much more hesitant to travel. Now what we're seeing in research, and I think the latest one was the March study from Destination Analysts, we're seeing that 55 plus is prioritizing leisure travel much more so than Gen X and even Gen Y and millennials. So we have shifted our paid strategy. We used to cap at 25-54. Now we have removed that cap to go 55 plus and ensure that we're trying to capture that demographic that actually, one, has the money to spend and is going to be less impacted by the recession, and two, has a higher propensity to prioritize leisure travel over younger demographics.
Interesting. Thank you. Jalyssa.
Sure. Go ahead.
So one thing, I just got back from a sales mission in London, and one thing I learned from our international visitors is the booking window has shortened tremendously. Usually 6 months, even further out, is what was normal, and now just because of the way everything is still going on in the world, that booking window, they're seeing like 2 months, even a month out, just because they want to make sure that their money's worth it. And even domestically, even all the reports that we're getting, we're seeing a week, 5 days, that booking window. So for us, that helps. We're going into our shoulder season and then into our summer season, which is a little bit slower, where that could help us to still push our message of coming out and visiting and enjoying the beautiful weather before it gets too hot in Arizona. So that's definitely what we're seeing, and it's surprising.
No, I think that's interesting, and we've seen that as well with our own research. We've started adding that 61 to 90-day booking window for international is really, really key now, where it was all 90-day plus. So interesting. Coryn?
Yeah, for us, it's all about the beverages and the food. So we are primarily an outdoor recreation destination, but for, after you burn all those calories, you want to have a nice drink and you want to have a nice meal. So for us, we've really seen an uptick in interest in our restaurant week, which is actually the end of February and March in our shoulder season. You never know what the driving conditions are going to be like to get to Traverse City, but we've seen a really great regional uptick in participation in Restaurant Week, which traditionally used to be a locals event. So that's really exciting for us to see that happening in our shoulder season. Additionally, we have 2 passports with an unnamed company, because I don't want to hear any cowbells. So we have 2 passports, one for Beer Week and one for Traverse City Uncorked, which is in May, which is a celebration for Traverse City Wine Month. And over the last 2 years, since we've implemented these passports, the growth has been tremendous in terms of signups, that people have signed up, opted in, and then we've seen an increase in check-ins. And we can also track the check-ins to the hotels because we have a special code set up for that. And each year, the check-ins to the hotels has increased as well, which is a huge bonus for us being an assessment-based DMO.
I like the fact that marketers now are being much more nimble and are able to make changes much more quickly. If you think about it, even 10 years ago, you wrote a business plan, you wrote your marketing plan, you said it, and you didn't forget it, but that was the plan, and that's what you were going to do. And I really, it's exciting to see the dynamic shifts that you're able to make very, very quickly. I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'm going to go into some of the more specific questions, and then if we have time, I'll do some more of the global stuff. Is that okay? So we're going to start off. So Leah, with Discover Puerto Rico, you have a very unique attraction. I don't want to say attraction, not the right word, but El Yunque is the only tropical rainforest in the U.S. National Forest System. It's a sacred place on your island. And with so many people making incredibly conscious decisions around sustainability, and also frustrated because they can't find the information, how have you started to sort of think about sustainability and incorporate it into your roadmap and use it in marketing and make that information available? Big question, but
I was going to say that's a separate panel too. Like there is so many pieces within this conversation around sustainability that are really important to touch on. I'll try to keep this brief. It's obviously, I think, critical for a lot of destinations, but I think you touch on a key point where you say a lot of people are interested in choosing sustainable destinations. A lot of people say we're willing to pay more to prioritize a destination or an attraction that rates sustainability very highly. Are they actually doing that? Because I think and at least I haven't seen any recent statistics to this, where what we see is a lot of great intentions. When people get surveyed, they say, yes, of course I want to go to a destination that prioritizes sustainability, and me and my family, we prioritize sustainability. But are they actually choosing those destinations because of that, and are they willing to pay a higher price at those destinations for those experiences? We haven't really seen that data match up. So I think that's an interesting conversation to have at some point. Nonetheless, we prioritize sustainability because it's the right thing to do, and it's critical for the longevity of all of our destinations. For us, that sustainability piece, and sustainability sort of has three pillars, right? It's the environment, it's the economic sustainability, and it's cultural sustainability. Those are sort of what we as tourism marketers need to be very mindful of when we're talking about how to prioritize these areas within our destinations. In Puerto Rico, the environmental sustainability piece actually falls under the government of Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico Tourism Company. So unfortunately, as a DMO, we don't have a lot of impact or input when it comes to how to prioritize the brick and mortar sustainability conversation, right? So how can we actually make hotels green certified, et cetera? But what we can do is look at the product that we have available, look at the partners who are doing innovative things in terms of sustainability. We can prioritize that content on our website. We can share that with travel writers when they're on the island for fam trips. We can ensure that we are providing that information to travelers at all of the different touch points through the planning funnel so that they can make better decisions. For us, I think where we can have impact, I think in a more meaningful way in Puerto Rico, is with that cultural sustainability piece. And again, you see that with our Live Boricua campaign. It's important for us that the culture of the island is protected, that the culture is shared with the world in the right way, and that when people come to the island, they're able to experience it in a responsible way. And so that's why over the last 5 years, we've prioritized what during the pandemic we called responsible travelers, but now we call conscientious travelers. Those people who want to come to the destination and leave it better than they found it. Or I say at least don't leave it worse, right? So that's kind of what we are focused on with our campaign, with our messaging, with the very ethos of our destination, is how can we not only lift up and amplify from a marketing standpoint to drive that revenue, cultural sustainability, but really how can we embed it in the DNA of our organization and our marketing efforts to ensure that long after I'm gone, long after our staff who's currently there are gone, that stays true to the destination, and that we're bringing the right kind of visitors who are going to not just have a great experience, but also walk away with something that's really, really meaningful and memorable.
No, I love that. And I think, you hit it nail on the head. It's the right thing to do. I think it is also within this room and those of us who have booking capabilities or tracking capabilities, how do we start tracking those behaviors? Is it really happening? And I think we're getting close to being able to do it in a minor way, but more to come on that. And you're right, a completely different panel. Lots of conversation. Jalyssa, I think one of the exciting things about what you guys are doing is a focus on vacation rental. We know traditional lodging is incredibly important, will never stop being important to our business. But there are benefits that some markets are now seeing through the vacation rental product. And that's part of some of your success that you're having in Visit Mesa. So tell me a little bit about sort of what you've been doing and focusing on that market.
Yeah, so our main objective with the Verbo campaign that we ran, we now get bed sales tax from short-term rentals. And this is our first year running this campaign. So we had to create awareness to our Visit Mesa Verbo website, and we did that by creating banners that were more focused on the long stay short-term rental. So banner ads that said more space to stay and play, or stay a few days, a memory forever, with images that it could look more like a backyard than a park. So just focusing on that And now because we get bed tax, we were able to get the booked room nights from that campaign, which helped show our ROI on that campaign. And it has been really successful. Like I said, it's been our first year. We had over 16,000 room nights in our first year. And our plan is to just keep investing in it and invest more. And it isn't taken away from our hotels. Our hotels are still seen, but because our ADR is higher and we're seeing longer stays at short term, we're really invested in it.
And a very unplanned question, so apologies. But if I'm not mistaken, you actually have equal number of vacation rental accommodations as you do traditional lodging, or is it more?
About equal.
About
Yeah.
equal. So that's also very interesting sort of mix of your accommodations within the marketplace. So it's exciting. And not all destinations have access to the tax revenue. So if you don't, certainly work with your legislation to figure out how you can get that, because it is incredibly beneficial. So anyway.
Can we have a third panel where you talk about how your hoteliers reacted to that? Because I think that's a very interesting, I mean, the fact that it performed well, I think speaks to the opportunities that DMOs have to do that type of campaign. But I think that's something we haven't really considered, even though we do collect room tax on the short-term rentals, kind of that tension between the hoteliers and the short-term rental owners.
I think it's also about proving, again, we completely hijacked the panel, but and we promise I haven't forgotten. But I think there is a way to prove that business is not going to be lost if you focus on one or focus on both.
Not only that, but also weighing in on this question, because it's kind of a hot button issue in Traverse City too, is that I think traditional hoteliers have a lot to learn from short-term rentals. And it's a lot to learn that could actually benefit them and help them boost their business. So, yeah, I agree on the second panel.
Cool. One of the things that we've seen, and I mentioned it earlier, we have not seen any kind of slowing down of demand. Within our most recent traveler index, we've seen, in fact, growth year over year on travel demand. And what we're seeing, that travel is even more important than ever when it comes to what it means to a traveler. Like, I want to travel because that's important to me, not because they have to. And figuring out what customers want and how they want to travel is sometimes a big challenge, and doing any specific campaigns. So Coryn, thinking about Traverse City, are you looking at traveler behavior, and are you making any changes? Are you doing anything and incorporating it into your campaigns that's resonating with the customers?
Yeah, so this, I think, could be a whole panel too. This is a really big question. We have kind of two focuses. We have a very regional focus, which is all of our drive markets. I mentioned earlier that we're a four-season destination, but it does get a little dicey to try to come visit us certain times of the year. People may be more reluctant. They might not want to set aside vacation time, knowing that their drive might, be an impact to getting there. So during those shoulder seasons, we target and do our campaign messaging a little bit differently, whereas during the time where we piggyback on the state level with Pure Michigan for a national campaign, we target users that way more nationally through a variety of different ads. In addition to this, using Pure Michigan, we are very heavy with co-ops. And so that these co-ops that we do really help us to target different people through different stages of the travel planning cycle. So we have about 4 different co-op programs. The biggest one that runs for us is on the state level through Pure Michigan. The traditional commercial with the cider house rules that kind of put Pure Michigan on the map many years ago with Tim Allen. Well, that's been redone, you guys. It's super exciting. It just launched a couple weeks ago, and it has a Keep It Fresh theme. It still has Tim Allen, and then it now has a female voice, which is really exciting. It's a female from Detroit. She's a poet. And you may have already seen some of these commercials. They are on the national networks like Discovery, Food TV, Magnolia, and such. Well, this campaign is a very integrated digital and traditional marketing campaign. And the biggest part of it for us is that it allows us to have exposure on national TV. It's very expensive in the national TV ad world. And we're a regional DMO, so we don't have that kind of a budget to get that exposure. So by co-oping with the state, we get the match, and then we also get that national exposure on in those placements, in those TV commercials. So it's super exciting to be able to do that. We also get a lot of really good data from Pure Michigan and the agencies that they work with. As it's integrated, there are other components. There is connected TV, Hulu, Samsung, Amazon, and the like, and then there are also a variety of digital placements. Our 3 other co-ops are on a more regional level. We do have one that promotes kind of the whole northern Michigan region, that kind of ring finger to the pinky in a circle, including, this one's called Discover Northern Michigan, and this one promotes Charlevoix, Gaylord, and our airport. Traverse City does have an airport, as you saw in our short TikTok. It's called TVC, Cherry Capital Airport. We have a second regional campaign, which is for America's Summer Golf Capital. We are a heavy golf destination, and when, as we have learned, golfers like to play more than one course in different regions. So in this co-op, we work with Petoskey, which is a neighboring city about maybe 2 hours north of us, Gaylord again, and then again the airport. The airport is very key to these. And then our third one, which I would actually say is probably second in tier to Pure Michigan, would be the one that is strictly with TVC or Cherry Capital Airport. So we work with them every year on a large campaign that does promote summer a little bit, but we do start it in March and it ends at the end of September. And the reason for that duration is that is when we have direct flights from a variety of different cities, 17, I think is what the little graphic said, 17 flights on a variety of different airlines, Delta, United, Allegiant, Sun Country. So you can get to our little city almost near the Pinky in Michigan through an airport, and that's what that campaign aims to do. And we do get, the data we get from these campaigns is very important. It does show us the conversion windows, the look to book, how many people are traveling, and then one that we've really been looking at is that leisure versus business.
Thank you very much. Before we go, I want to ask, as you're perusing all the data, as you're perusing the results of your campaigns, and what we do a lot here at eTourism is what is next? What's the new thing that's coming out? So the question I have for you is, what do you think the new digital trend is going to be? What's going to happen this year that's going to change what we do?
I don't think this is a digital trend. Maybe it relates to digital because like you have to have digital to do this. But has anybody heard of a hush trip? How about a workation?
It's very hush-hush.
All right, so just sitting at lunch today outside, I saw 2 people heavily engaged in what was a work type of conversation. I don't know if they were on just a leisure vacation or if they were actually on one of these hush trips. One of our agency reps was recently on a hush trip in Mexico when I got on a strategy call with her. And so the concept is that people are taking more workations, and I think that this really did start with COVID. I don't want to talk much about that because we're all done with it, but you know, it did start during that. We have the opportunity, because of technology and because of digital, to be able to go and work and play anywhere. And so for me, I'm seeing this as a really big trend, and you know, if you look around, it's probably like one of those things you learn a new word and you see it in every sentence that you read. You know, like now, because I mentioned hush trips, you're going to look around and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people working. So anyway, that's mine.
I like hush trip. Our survey called it a flexcation, but hush trip sounds a little bit more naughty. I'm down with it. How about you, Jalyssa? Anything that comes to mind?
Maybe not in the next year, but I would say more of an AI universe where you're able to not physically, obviously, but AI, like plan your vacation. And more so just like every little step of the way from the second you get off to the airport, to the drive, to the, like, and just visually being able to see it on either like an Oculus or something.
I think we just signed something we just may have started that. I should probably read emails from my CEO. Hey. Patrick Harrison, soon to be the ex-CMO of Visit Tampa Bay. Leah, what about you? And then we're...
Just quickly, I would say, and I think it's something that has kind of started post-pandemic, but we're seeing it ramp up even more, is just experiences driving decisions about trip planning and where people are going. I think pre-COVID, prior to COVID, what we were seeing is people would choose a destination and then decide what they were going to do when they get there. And now we're seeing that people are choosing experiences and figuring out where can I go that I'm going to have that type of experience. And so I think as us for marketers, how do we apply that to our search engine strategies? How do we apply that to the way we are building out our content on our websites to ensure that we're capturing those people with the type of information they're looking for those experiences, and then convincing them that Puerto Rico is the best place to do it.
Yeah, just a tiny little task.
No big deal.
I really want to thank each of you for spending your time. Coryn, Leah, and Jalyssa, thank you so much. And thank you for being here, and enjoy the rest of your conference.
Thank you.